Hi, mine's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this week's look at how the Brexit media is spinning things, I'd like to take a look at their input on Britain's influence around the world as it becomes increasingly clear that Brexit is not enhancing the UK's international standing, but badly damaging it, and then take a look at what really now is the current Brexit battlefield. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So our old frenemy, the Daily Express, is at it again, urging Boris Johnson to tell President Biden to back off over the Northern Ireland Protocol row, something I may have to discuss again next week. And it's like an odd thing to say when the UK government has been sending delegations to the United States for months now to discuss this very issue. You know, you don't go to someone's house to have a conversation about something when they offer their opinion. Go, back off, mate. You know, it exposes their hypocrisy when it comes to sovereignty. After all, Johnson doesn't need to tell Biden to back off. President Biden has no input into UK legislation. If the UK government presses ahead with legislation designed to dismantle the Northern Ireland Protocol in British law, it's down to Parliament to approve or reject that legislation. The US government can make their views known, as our government can and does make its views known on international matters, but it can't ultimately change them. So why the fuss? Well, because of what they can do, of course. They can sink whatever talks may be taking place about an eventual trade deal with the United States. This will not occur, and although the likes of the Express may try and mislead their readership, they are likely to understand the political reality in the United States. And it's not like it's a case of just hanging on while Biden is replaced by the orange one again in a few years. Trump won't give us a trade deal. I would say that he can't without Congress, and that the Northern Ireland Protocol enjoys bipartisan support on Capitol Hill. But Trump himself, when he was president, made clear that he had to be mindful of the impact of Brexit on Ireland. He will be just as susceptible to the Irish lobby as anyone, no matter what his personal interest on the matter is, and I suspect he has very little personal interest on the matter. It's really this simple. If the Northern Ireland Protocol is removed, there will be no US trade deal. In fact, even with the Northern Ireland Protocol in place, if it's even been threatened, there'll be no US trade deal. Not now, not ever. Not until the situation is resolved, properly resolved. The Express will also know that there can only be two possible resolutions. First is that the UK government completely backs down, re-implements the protocol. Second is that Ireland reunifies and the protocol's neither here nor there. Either outcome is acceptable to the United States government of whichever party, and neither is acceptable to the likes of the Express. What's more, they know that Brexit is killing our economy. Nobody doubts that our hard Brexit has hurt our trade with the EU. So it hasn't just hurt our international standing, it's hurt our trade with the whole world. Fewer realise that it's not possible to compensate with better trade with other countries. Indeed, our trade with the rest of the world is also down. Because this is the thing, that's the rationale. You know, we'll just get better overall trade by arranging preferential trade deals of a sort that were not possible inside the EU. The problem is that the rest of the world simply doesn't have enough money to buy enough of our goods to achieve this. We tried to say this at the time. The EU get really good trade deals because they represent a massive market. We can't get better trade deals as a smaller market. And even Brexiteers sort of understood the idea that there just isn't that much buying power around the rest of the world. So they looked at the United States as their great hope. Get a trade deal with anyone else and it's really hard to hide how worthless it is. You know, we had trade deals with most of the world in the EU. So the economic impact of new post-Brexit deals is at best of zero value. And in some cases, it's worse. Like our trade deal with Japan is worse than the one the EU have, and therefore the one we would have had if we'd have stayed. But if the EU don't have a trade deal with the US, well, that's different. Because what's more, the EU are not likely to get one anytime soon. The EU and the US are fundamentally different on trade matters. The EU is about high standards. The US is about no standards, just massive levels of commerce. Bilateral trade agreements apart, it's hard to navigate a course to a free trade agreement between the two. So if the UK could get one, Oh, that'd be a massive political coup for Brexit. Never mind that the trade deal would be just as useless as all the others, in fact, arguably worse. People won't look at the details, and our mainstream media will certainly not explain it to them. But if we don't get a US trade deal, the whole premise collapses. We now have a Tory MP saying that our economy would be improved by rejoining the single market. Yes, it's just a single Tory MP, and I don't expect many others to join his calls just yet. But think how this will play in public. They were told we needed to leave the EU in order to power up, but we've been powering down. They were also told that some countries in the single market, but not in the EU, do rather well. That was Nigel Farage's exact words. Countries like Switzerland and Norway. So why can't we do that? The public ask, why can't we do that? They were told because it would stop us getting a US trade deal, the rich plum that only a hard Brexit could deliver. But we're not getting a US trade deal. There will come a point where it becomes apparent that we are never getting one. So why not join the EEA? This is how the Brexit battle land is forming at the moment. This is now the latest battle against the Putin-Murdoch axis, basically. Right now, it's easy to phrase Brexit in these terms to the public. Brexit was not about harming our trade, but the reality of Brexit is harming our trade. It's just not yet settled for a lot of the public that the only way to pick that trade back up is to lower the trade barriers. There are still some who may be fooled by the idea of, oh no, we just need more of these trade deals, give it another year or two. But what happens in another year or two? Then it might become apparent that actually no, the only way is to reverse these trade barriers. That means reversing parts of the extreme Tory Brexit. Now, when I talked, I think it was yesterday, about the Tory MP, Tobias Ellwood, who was arguing for re-entry to the EEA, he said that it would mean following EU rules as if it were an issue, but not a net disadvantage. As if, yeah, okay, we'd have to accept these rules as if it's a bad thing, but, it's worth it. Now, the point I keep making is we follow EU rules anyway. Yes, the government doesn't have to follow EU rules, but the rest of us do. If we want to be able to trade, and it doesn't matter whether we personally trade or not, if we want to be part of that supply chain, if we buy food in the shops, we need to follow EU rules. All countries have to follow the rules of the market they wish to trade with. So we do follow EU rules, no matter what sort of Brexit we have. We follow American rules. We follow Japanese rules. We follow Canadian rules. If we want to trade with lots of markets, you adopt the standards of the pickiest of them as well. The EU has the world's highest standards in general, which is why the CE mark is the world standard. Anyone who makes anything for export around the world adopts EU standards as also covering their goods for other markets. After all, nobody complains about the standards of goods being too high for import. But the Tory MP, Tobias Ellwood, didn't make that argument, either because he doesn't understand it himself, because, remember, just because he's now talking sense, don't assume he actually understands anything about trade. Or because he thinks the argument will fall on deaf ears. Maybe he does understand it and he just thinks it's not a fruitful argument to be had. But this is the battle right now. As soon as people can see that trade will only pick up and the cost of the living crisis will only be managed once we return to the single market, you're another step along the way. So let's say we return to the single market, though I do wonder if a customs union would not be the easiest first step. Because, how do you argue to a member of the public that we shouldn't be in the customs union? With the single market, they come up with all sorts of arguments around immigration, which still holds sway with a lot of people. What do you argue with the customs union? What do you say to people that will get them saying, oh yeah, we shouldn't be part of the customs union? But never mind that. Let's say we do enter the EEA first. It should not be too much of a problem then to argue for the customs union. That should be easy. We can negotiate our own version with the EU. If we join the EEA, if we join the single market, right? We don't get to really negotiate anything. It's are you going to follow the rules of the single market? Yes or no? No, then you can't come into the single market. It's really that simple. Customs union, you can have different customs union. You can, Turkey has a customs union. It's not a very good one. It has one. We could negotiate all sorts of things there. Doesn't have to be the same ones we had before. That would be better, but it doesn't have to be. But, you know. So then we're in the customs union, the single market. Now, at that point, it's only a matter of time. Once we're back in the single market and customs union and benefiting from EU trade deals and free trade around Europe again, people will start to say, well, hang on a minute. Shouldn't we be involved in deciding the rules and the trade deals that we're now complying with? Why shouldn't we get a say? Because no matter what happens to the UK, what's left of it will still be one of the largest countries in Europe by both population and GDP. We should be able to have our say. And so we will. But we won't get a vote on what happens. Well, that's ridiculous. We should be able to vote on things that affect us, shouldn't we? Oh, so you want to join the EU, do you? Do we? Yeah, I suppose we do. This is not where the owners of the Express want us to get back to. Consider that by this point, because we're not talking in a couple of years here. By this point, you know, we could have proportional representation. We'll have seen the instant benefits of being in the single market again. The various parts of Britain, in whatever form, might have renewed appreciation for closer European harmony once more. This is why Tories in both the parliamentary party and the media have gone absolutely loopy at the concept. When Tobias Ellwood said we should join the single market, they went nuts, absolutely insane. They didn't just say, oh no, I don't agree with that. Absolutely insane. They've shut it down immediately. It's why they're urging the British Prime Minister to break ties with our most powerful Western allies. It's why they want our trade to suffer, rather than let people see the benefits of working more closely with our European neighbours. It's why they want to trash the Northern Ireland Protocol. Because at the moment, we keep seeing news. There was more news in the last week about how Northern Ireland is outperforming the rest of the UK economically as well. Of course it is. It retains access to the single market. It didn't have the extreme Tory Brexit. It's an absolute disaster for them. It's why there is no groundswell of support for Brexit in the Western world, other than those who are part of groups who also attack Western values. Those are the only people that support Brexit in the Western world. Those who constantly undermine Western values, Western democracy, whether from within or without. Now, ordinarily, you would look at a British media outlet arguing for us to break ties with France, Germany, the United States and think, that doesn't sound like good advice. Then you'd look at the same outlets arguing for economic ruin because it's worth it for sovereignty that we never actually lost. And you say, these people may not be right in the head. Then you look at them arguing that the British population should turn on each other in order to defend this Brexit like it's a holy relic, you know, take part in these culture wars. And you think to yourself, these people may not have our best interests at heart. And they don't, of course. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. Maybe even click on the join button if you're interested in supporting the channel further. And until next time, I'll see you later.